So I had this client, and he had just been given a third job offer that had been pulled back. Okay, that's soul crushing, and you're beside yourself. Like, I said, how? That's not possible. You know, three times, like an offer pulled back. It just doesn't make any sense. So I started down the path of, we need to call and pretend like we're going to hire you and see what your references are saying. And I thought, you know what? Look at your LinkedIn connections and see if you're a first level connection to anyone that you shouldn't be. I wondered if someone was doing some back channel searching and talking to someone that was sabotaging him, right? Something had to be sabotaging this, and I could not figure out what it was. So these were the paths I started us down to try to figure out what it was. Couldn't figure it out. And during this one meeting, I was watching, we were doing a web meeting, so I was watching him watch the video. And he was looking at his phone and all this other stuff. And so when the video was, and I was kind of perturbed by it, I was like, okay, so what'd you think of the video? So I couldn't believe what he said, how much he got out of the video. I thought, you got that from the video? He's like, yeah. I mean, obviously he did, or he couldn't have articulated that. But all of a sudden it dawned on me what the problem was. I said, you know what's really weird? I would never have gotten from your face what you were thinking. It completely threw me off. I saw you checking your phone. I thought you were disinterested. And I said, I'll bet you $1,000 that that's the problem. I bet you're not expressing yourself and you're not reading the room in a way that you should be in the moment when you're there. Something's happening in that last moment, in the last meeting, when it's kind of just a final like meet and greet and the deal's done. You're doing something in that last meeting, or not doing something, maybe more appropriately, that is blowing this up. He thought about it for a minute and he says, Rhett, I feel sick to my stomach. He goes, I think you're right. And he went on to describe how in this last opportunity, now mind you, this client loves golf. He says, I was sitting there with the president, right? I'm in the president's room, and this client is going to get the CIO job. He says, up on the wall behind him is a picture of him and Tiger Woods. And he says, I didn't even say anything about it. I said, what? What do you mean you didn't say anything about it? I mean, you love golf. He goes, I know. I'm like, I mean, it would be one thing if someone didn't know anything about it and they knew the person was probably famous, but they weren't really sure who it was. And so for that reason, they decided not to bring it up because they didn't want it to kind of blow up on them. Why wouldn't you say that? That would have been the easiest rapport builder of all time. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't see it that way, but now that you pointed out, I realize that. My wife says I don't really express myself very much. I kind of keep to myself. So we went through this whole conversation, and the more he started to think about what I was saying, the more it became crystal clear that his British accent and the way that he was perceived before when he's on the phone and things like that, when someone met him in the real world, they were disappointed because he didn't have the same kind of charisma and they didn't feel as connected. And I'm sure this guy thought, well, you know, we regularly go golfing. I love golf. And this guy didn't even ask about my Tiger Woods picture. And you know he was wanting, I mean, you have a picture there because you want everyone to ask about it. You're so proud of it. And so this client's a great golfer and he doesn't even ask. And I'm sure the guy thought, I'm not going to bring a CIO in here who can't even ask me about my Tiger Woods picture. That's a very real bug. That's a very real problem that he had. And so we had to fix it. We had to figure out a patch. And most patches that we all have to apply to the different bugs we have are things that we have to do outside of work. We have to do them at home, and we have to start doing it all the time because it has to become something that you feel really comfortable doing before the next time you do it, so that it comes across as natural and authentic. So I said, look, starting tonight, when you go golfing, I want you to like talk to everybody. When you go to the bar afterwards with your buddies, I need you to like talk to the bartender. Ask him what his favorite drink is instead of just ordering the usual. And I just went through like the most ridiculous things probably in his mind, but like talk to the gas station attendant, everybody. I want you to talk to them. I want you to ask them questions. I want you to show interest in them. So he called me on Monday and we talked, and he said it was really an amazing weekend because I went in to talk to the guy that runs the golf course, who I've known for 15 years, and he's on the phone and he's kind of telling me, your cart's ready. You just go ahead, I never talk to him because we have this kind of understanding, and I'm like, yeah, okay. So he couldn't understand why I was still standing there waiting to talk to him. And so when he gets off the phone, he's like, hey, Mark, your cart's ready to go. He goes, yeah, no, I know, how's it going, Dave? And fine, he thought something was wrong, like I was going to complain or something, and it was really awkward for him, but it was kind of nice, and we got to know each other a little more. And then I called my wife from like the 18th hole and told her this joke that one of my buddies had told, and by the time I got home that night, she was still laughing about it, and we had this like wonderful conversation in the evening that me calling her and telling her about the joke kind of broke this communication wall that we had built up between us. She loved that I shared that with her. She felt closer to me. And starting to do those little things started the thaw and started to make him feel more expressive and connected to the people around him. He was on autopilot. Are you on autopilot? Are you not recognizing metaphorical Tiger Woods pictures on the wall? What things you might be doing that are similar behaviorally? Things that you might have been told by a past boss, feedback from your spouse, friends, performance reviews. You got to think about these things and realize how you're bringing them into the interview. So many times people think, oh, it's ageism. That's why I keep getting, it's racism. It's this, it's some ism. And sometimes it is, but I could tell you after doing this for 20 years, it almost always isn't. I often think, would Steve Jobs have a hard time finding a job if he was alive today? Most people would go, well, no, of course not. Why? Isn't there ageism out there? The answer is because he brings value to an organization, obviously. So that's really it. The age is really just a thing in their mind where they think, are you going to be worth what we're going to pay you? Are you current? Do you understand what's going on? What does the age mean? It means, can you bring the value? So you have to address that. You have to show your value tangibly to companies and stop thinking it's just because I'm older. A lot of companies want the older person, like big time. There's a lot of value in hiring that right person, but you've got to show them that with the seasoning and with the knowledge that you've acquired, you've kept yourself in good shape. You've kept the saw sharp. You've learned. You've kept your certifications upright. Whatever scope of work you do, show that you're a constant learner. That's what has to be portrayed. And so don't allow these kinds of excuses to justify to you where your failures are. It's usually in the picture on the wall that you're missing that the solution can be found.